Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Maimuna Akhtar from School of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Jamia Hamdard. Today we are going to discuss about module fluorophores, special and specific fluorophores under paper atomic spectroscopy. From this module, we'll learn about fluorescent probes. What are fluorescent probes? How are they used for study of specific functions like membrane potential, DNA replication? We'll also learn about other types of probes used and their application. For example, chemical sensing probes, fluorogenic reagents for different amines, and study of galactoside activity in cells. We'll also discuss structural analogs or biomolecules as probes and viscosity probes in addition to green fluorescent probes. Fluorescent probes. What do we mean by fluorescent probes? These are the molecules that absorb light of a specific wavelength and emit light of a different, typically longer wavelength, a process known as fluorescence, and are used to study biological samples. The molecules, also known as fluorophores, can be attached to a target molecule and can be made to act as a marker for analysis with fluorescence microscopy. Large number of fluorescent probes have been developed since the inception of fluorescence microscopy. General probes, for example, these are used non-specifically, and they have been discussed in previous module of fluorophores. In this module, we are discussing about specific fluorophores, that means which are used for specific activity or measuring specific activity. For example, membrane probes, we'll be discussing DNA probes. There are also long lifetime probes, that means which have longer lifetime. Also, probes for metallic ions are available. Membrane probes. We need to understand what membrane is. Membranes are amphiphilic in nature and consist of hydrophobic chain and a hydrophilic head group region. In principle, two regions within the molecule to which fluorescent dye can be covalently coupled. In figure on the side you can see hydrophilic head and a hydrophobic tail. The majority of dyes, those emit in the visible light region, are used as hydrophilic attachment of hydrophilic region. When they are attached in the chain region, the dye will change the hydrophilic or hydrophobicity balance of the lipid molecule. Head group labeled lipids can also be prepared when properties of the chain region are important, for example, for phase determination in biological membranes. This slide shows you the fluorescence approaches that are commonly used in biological membrane studies. For example, it can be used in study of protein exposure or embedding. It can be used for membrane protein secondary structure studies or protein binding to membranes or oligomerization of proteins, red edge excitation shift, localization depth in membranes, and etc. So coming to membrane probes are used to study lateral diffusion, fluidity, positioning of lipids and proteins in the lipid bilayer, that is membrane, and of course we can also study surface potential of the membranes by using different probes. The study can be done by partitioning of water-insoluble probes into non-polar part of the membrane. Lateral diffusion is studied by hexamer-forming fluorophores, that is di-di interactions such as pyrene. Fluorescein is another fluorophore which has been used for studying of lateral diffusion. DPH, that is 1,6-diphenyl 1,3,5-hexatriene, is the one of the most commonly used fluorophore. It serves as a sensor of the disordering of fatty acyl chains. The mobility of DPH within the lipid bilayer restricts the detection of its exact location and as a result limits the interpretation of the data. Addition of DPH to a membrane suspension results in complete binding with no significant emission from DPH in the aqueous phase. All the emission from DPH is then due to DPH in the membrane environment. It has often been used as partitioning probe. That means to determine how much of the DPH is within the cell membrane and outside the cell membrane. It can be localized near membrane-water interface by attachment of the trimethyl ammonium group to one of the phenyl ring. Covalent labeling of membranes. Covalent labeling means you attach the probe through covalent bond. A covalent attachment to lipid is made, and it is useful for water-soluble probes like fluorescein and rhodamine. They are localized by attachment to long acyl chain of phospholipids, and depending on the chemical structure of probe, fluorescent groups can be positioned either on the fatty acid side chain, like for example you can attach fluorescein to the fatty acid side chain, or it can be on the other side, that is membrane water interface, for example Texas Red. Texas Red PE is used for its long wavelength and photostability. The structure of the two fluorophores that have been used in contrast: Texas Red, phosphatidyl ethanolamine, and fluoronyl PC. Fluorophores which have been commonly used as covalent labeling of biomolecules like DSN chloride, Texas Red sulfonyl chloride, BODP 499 and 508 molecule, and FTTC. Pyrene labeled lipid probes. They are used to determine coefficient of the lateral diffusion within fluid lipid membranes. They have also been used for their ability to form excited dimers or excimers. The excimer formation rate is very sensitive measurement of change in membrane fluidity, which is an important regulator of membrane functional proteins. The emission spectra is highly dependent on temperature. Membrane potential probes have been useful for tracking and imaging of membrane potential across excitable cells. For example, neurons. Membrane potential is a result of difference in potassium, sodium, and chloride concentration inside and outside the cell and is controlled by active transport process. The important cell signaling, neurobiology, and muscle contraction have been studied by using these potential probes. Microelectrodes can be applied, but their spatial resolution is limited and sampling requires a certain time. Therefore, membrane potentials have advantage over them. Use of fluorescent probes overcome these limitations, as I explained. Then potential sensitive probes differ in their response time and amplitude of signal. Fast responding probes, for example, sterile pyridium, its signal amplitude is weak. Compared to that, where slow responding probes, they have strong amplitude. Here are some examples or probes which are sensitive to electric potential membranes. For example, myrocinin 540, naphthyl sterile, DSC C215, di5-ASP. That how these probes actually act. The partitioning of dye from water to membrane or reorientation of dye in the membrane, or it can be aggregation of dye in the membrane, or inherent sensitivity of dye to electric dye field, which can change when they are in bound form or unbound form. And you can measure the partitioning of dye by observing actual fluorescence. Reorientation of dye in the membrane may lead to change in the fluorescence. Aggregation of dye again results in change in the fluorescence capacity. There are some examples which respond to particular factors. For example, carbocyanin dyes, they respond to potential by partitioning or aggregation in the membrane. Sterile dyes respond to electric potential dielectrically. That is, if there is any change in electric potential, that will be reflected by the change in the fluorescence of the sterile dyes. Myrocine dyes respond to membrane potential by both mechanisms. That means if there is change in potential by partitioning, or if there is any change in the electric potential of the membrane, their fluorescence will change. The study of the genetic material, that is DNA, has also been done by using different probes because DNA as such is weak or non-fluorescent for practical purposes. Therefore, number of probes have been developed and used to study the DNA functioning. When they attach to the DNA, they enhance the emission. Most widely used DNA probes are ethidium bromide, which is a weak fluorescent in water with a lifetime of 1.7 nanoseconds. But upon binding to DNA, the lifetime of the ethidium increases to 20 nanoseconds, which is approximately 30 times the lifetime of the original ethidium or unbound ethidium. The mode of binding is intercalation. That means it fixes itself between the two layers or two strands of the DNA. The mode of binding is intercalation of the planar aromatic ring between the base pair of double helical DNA. This is a simple representation of attaching a fluorescent probe to DNA. A DNA fragment is taken from the pathogen for which the study is made. It's a target nucleotide sequence and it is attached to a plasmid and a recombinant DNA is produced. And this is then cloned and cloned target DNA is obtained, which is then attached to a probe. The DNA probe is hybridized to target DNA and a mixed probe with DNA sample is then produced. So this is the explanation of the figure that the DNA of interest is extracted. It is digested with a restriction enzyme such as Ecorol R1 or HIN3, which cuts DNA at specific sites or positions. Separate fragments of different sizes by running on an agarose or polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. The DNA of specific fragment is isolated for a particular band. It's identified through southern blot by hybridization with specific labeled mRNA or cDNA molecule. And this DNA is then cloned in a vector, and this chimeric vector is allowed to infect bacteria for multiplication, where it can make billions of copies. Other probes that have been used for DNA studies include acridine orange. It's useful for cell cycle determination and it interacts with the DNA by intercalation. The excitation maxima at a wavelength of 502 nanometers and emission maxima is at 525 nanometers. Another probe is DAPI, that is 4,6-diamino 2-phenylindole. It strongly binds to adenine thymine rich region of DNA and passes through an intact cell membrane. It can be used for live cell and fixed cell imaging. The absorption maxima is at 358 nanometers, whereas the emission maxima is at 461 nanometers. Some DNA probes which have been used, for example, Hosted 33342, Ethidium homodimer, a Toto 514, 533. These are the emission and excitation wavelengths mentioned. In addition to other DNA probes, the analogs of DNA bases have also been used as DNA probes. The DNA can also be made fluorescent by DNA base analogs. For example, 2-aminopurine is an analog of adenine, isoxanthopurine, which is an analog of guanine. This 2-aminopurine, which we call as 2-AP, it's sensitive to environment, means change in pH, aqueous, non-aqueous. So it's sensitive to environment and therefore is suitable for DNA conformation and dynamics. The fluorescence is partially quenched when in double-stranded DNA, when the study is actually done with double-stranded DNA. Isoxanthopurine is partially quenched when it is in double-stranded DNA compared to the aminopurine, but more fluorescent when it is dinucleotide compared to mononucleotide. That means when isoxanthopurine is attached to a DNA molecule which is in the form of dinucleotide, there is more fluorescence compared to the single strand. Because of this, it is used for assay for integration of HIV DNA into host cell genome. Here you can see the analogs of the purine bases that have been used as DNA probes. The analog of adenine, 2-aminopurine, and analog of guanine, that's isoxanthotyrine. The emission spectra of isoxanthotyrine nucleotide in a dinucleotide and oligonucleotide has been depicted. You can see the fluorescence in the oligonucleotide form is very less, whereas the intensity is very high when the binding is in dinucleotide. Chemical sensing probe. So it's often desirable to detect spectrophotometrically silent substances such as chloride ions, sodium ions, or calcium ions because they are very important in the biological functioning. And this is possible using various sensing probes, some of which are shown in next two slides. The probe MQAE is collisionally quenched by chloride according to the Stern-Volmer equation, allowing the chloride concentration to be estimated from the extent of quenching. The measurement of calcium has been done by using a probes, for example, Fura2, which has shown a calcium-dependent spectral shift. So such probes are called wavelength ratiometric probes because the analyte concentration can be determined from a ratio of intensities at different excitation or emission wavelengths. These are examples of the chemical sensing probes along with their spectra. For MQAE, the absorption spectra is roughly 370, whereas the emission spectra is near 500. To Fura, the excitation absorption is at 350, roughly around 350, and emission spectra is at 500. They can see the intensity when bound to calcium is very high. When not bound to calcium, the intensity is low. A few more examples of chemical sensing probes are calcium green and carboxy SNARF6 with their emission spectra on the left hand side. So coming to fluorogenic probes. Fluorogenic probes are dyes that are non or weakly fluorescent until some event occurs. For example, enzymatic cleavage. An example of typical fluorogenic probe is given in next slide. 7-amblypheryl phosphatase, which is non-fluorescent as the phosphate ester, but becomes highly fluorescent upon hydrolysis. The 7-amblypheryl phosphate is used to measure the activity of alkaline phosphatase, and this is often used as a basis for enzyme-linked immunoabsorbent assays, that is ELISA technique, and is also used in enzyme-amplified DNA assays. In addition to other specific probes such as calcium green display, a calcium-dependent probe which increase in intensity but with no spectral shift. A wavelength ratiometric and non-ratiometric probes are known for many species including hydrogen ion, sodium ion, potassium ion, magnesium ion, amines, and some phosphates. These dyes typically consist of a fluorophore and a region for analyte recognition, such as on azacrown ethers for sodium ion or potassium ion, or a BAPTA group for calcium ions. Such dyes are most often used in fluorescence microscopy and cellular signaling and cellular imaging, and are trapped in cells either by hydrolysis of cell permeable esters or by microinjection. So coming to fluorogenic probes. Fluorogenic probes are dyes that are non or weakly fluorescent until some event occurs. For example, enzymatic cleavage. An example of typical fluorogenic probe is given in next slide. 7-amblypheryl phosphatase, which is non-fluorescent as the phosphate ester, but becomes highly fluorescent upon hydrolysis. The 7-amblypheryl phosphate is used to measure the activity of alkaline phosphatase, and this is often used as a basis for enzyme-linked immunoabsorbent assays, that is ELISA technique, and is also used in enzyme amplified DNA assays. This slide shows you some fluorogenic probes, that means fluorogenic probes which show fluorescence upon some enzymatic breakage. 7-umbelliferone phosphate, which is broken down by alkaline phosphate, results in 7-hydroxy-4-methylcoumarin, which is an active analog and shows fluorescence. Similarly, beta-galactosidase also breaks the compound and results in the fluorescent molecule. One of the important activity that is measured in cells is p-galactosidase activity. This enzyme is often used as gene marker in cells. Its activity can be detected by galactoside of umbelliferone or 7-hydroxy-4-methylcoumarin. An improved probe is shown in the lower panel. This fluorescein derivative contains a fatty acid chain that serves to retain the probe at the site of hydrolysis. You can see in the other slide on the figure. This allows the cell with p-galactosidase activity to be identified under a microscope. Another class of fluorogenic reagents are those that are initially non-fluorescent and become fluorescent upon reacting with amines. The earlier class was they become fluorescent upon breaking down. But this is the difference, that these become fluorescent when amines react with them. While they have been used for labeling proteins, they are more commonly used in protein sequencing, determination of protein concentration, or for detection of lower molecular weight amines in chromatography. So here are some examples of fluorogenic reagents for amines. MDPF becomes fluorescent when it reacts with the primary amine. Similarly, CBOCA and fluorasamine. They all make the derivatives by reacting with amine as fluorescent derivatives. Structural analogues of biomolecules have also been used to develop probes, and these are very specific probes. For example, a structural analog of cholesterol and estradiol have been designed. Cholesterol and estradiol as such are non-fluorescent in nature, but their synthesized structural analogues display useful fluorescence. Dihydroergosterol is the structural analog of cholesterol, which displays absorption and emission maxima near 325 and 390 nanometers respectively. This structural analog of cholesterol has been used as a probe for interaction of steroids with membranes. This slide shows you the structure of the non-fluorescent cholesterol and dihydroergosterol and their fluorescent analogs, which have been used for various studies. The fluorescent analog of cholesterol is dihydrocholesterol and that of estradiol is azatetrahydrokinase, azatetrahydrocresene. Viscosity probes. Fluorescent quantum yields are often dependent on viscosity, but there are relatively few fluorophore characterized as viscosity probes. These probes display charge transfer in the excited state, presumably from the amines to the vinyl or cyano group. The viscosity probes are subclass of TICT probes, that is, twisted intramolecular charge transfer probes. They distort in excited state to form twisted intramolecular charge transfer state. In a highly viscous environment, the molecules cannot distort as needed for charge transfer, and the decay is radiative and vice versa. That is, in a less viscous environment, the molecules display internal rotation and charge transfer, which results in loss of fluorescence. Therefore, the quantum yield depends on solvent viscosity. These probes have been used to study the viscosities of membranes and the rigidity of binding sites on proteins. However, there are probes whose quantum yield depend only weakly on viscosity of the medium. For example, DPH. For DPH, the viscosity is determined from the anisotropy. This slide shows the fluorescence emission spectra and relative quantum yield of CCVI in ethylene glycol or glycol mixture of varying viscosity. You can see on the right hand side the plot shows the increase in viscosity leads to increase in the fluorescence intensity. Green fluorescent proteins. We have seen some marine creatures, they glow in undersea. So there are some reason that they glow. In some cases it's just simply chemical. We show fluorescence under certain circumstances, and in other case it's the protein which actually glows. And this has made an important addition to the library of probes. A green fluorescent protein from the bioluminescent jellyfish Aquaria victoria has been interest for identification of various proteins which show fluorescence. The bioluminescence of the primary photoprotein aquarium is blue. However, the bioluminescence from the jellyfish is green due to a closely associated green fluorescent protein. Green fluorescent protein contains a highly fluorescent group within a highly constrained and protected region of the protein. The chromophore is contained within a barrel of P-sheet protein. The remarkable feature of the GFP is that the chromophore forms spontaneously upon folding of the polypeptide chain without the need of enzymatic synthesis. As a result, it is possible to express the gene for GFP into cells and to obtain proteins which are synthesized with attached GFP. And it is even possible to express GFP in entire organism. The barrel structure of the green fluorescent protein, and you can see inside the ribbons of the protein a green colored molecule is there. There's a top view and the side view. The chromophore is linked covalently to the protein. This shows the chemical reaction or spontaneous formation of the fluorophore in green fluorescent protein by the serine tyrosine glycine residue. GFPs with different spectral properties have been created by introducing mutation into the amino acid sequence. Mutants are known that display longer absorption and emission wavelength and have higher photostability. GFPs have good photostability and display high quantum yield, which is probably because the p-barrel structure shields chromophore from the local environment from getting dehydrated. A large number of fluorescent proteins are now available with emission maxima ranging from 448 to 600 nanometers. Because of the variety of fluorescent proteins, the terminology has become confusing. For example, the fluorescent proteins from coral are often referred to as yellow fluorescent proteins or red fluorescent protein. However, this is misnomer because green fluorescent proteins can also come from corals. So it has been suggested that proteins derived from Aquarius victoria be called as AFP to indicate their origin with this jellyfish, and in general all these proteins are called green fluorescent proteins. With this we come to end of this module. In this module we have learned about fluorescent probes, how these probes are used for study of specific function like membrane potential, in DNA replication, various cell processes. We also learn about other types of probes used and their applications. How different substances can be made useful in analysis by fluorescence. Simply changing the structure of a molecule can be used to develop into a fluorophore, or how the viscosity of a system, or can say a solution solvent system, can be used to study the biological systems. We also learned about natural fluorescent proteins like green fluorescence proteins that are obtained from some jellyfish and sea corals. Thank you.